I am here with Dean Linnell, a very good friend of mine. Dean is with the Linnell Group at Whistler Real Estate. And Dean and I have known each other for a very long time, 6 or 7 years, I think, right?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. And so we're going to kind of dig into his business and where he came from and how he got there.
Sponsored by Spyglass Realty. If you're an agent listing in another city or state, we will take great care of your clients and pay a referral fee. If you're an agent in Austin that's thinking of making a move, let's talk.
So your primary focus, and I think what will be interesting about this episode is that your primary focus is vacation rental, right?
Yeah. Not vacation rental, vacation home sales, homes and condos. Yeah. We don't do any rentals up here. We have some regulatory issues where we have to have a special license for rentals. So realtors here typically don't do that. And it's just a whole kettle of fish I wouldn't want to get into.
Got it. But it's a second home market. Do the people there do they rent their stuff when they're not there?
Yeah. So to that question, absolutely. Yeah. So a lot of the stuff that we sell is someone's going to plan to do Airbnb or hire a rental management company to run it for them, but we're selling them a property to do that with.
Gotcha. Okay. So very briefly, because we're going to get more into it later, but tell us, what's the makeup of your team? What is it that, how are you guys structured?
Yeah, it's, we're quite a small team. Even though we do a lot of transactions, it's really just myself, and I have a VA in Calgary who's been with me now for, probably 12 years. Calgary's in the province over from us. We're in BC, just north of Vancouver. And then we have my wife. She's actually just got her license, but she does a lot of the marketing management and sort of some of the bookkeeping side of things as well. And then we've gone and we've kind of fluctuated back and forth between no buyer agents and having a couple. And currently we're at one, and he's amazing. His name's Alex. Brand new in the business last year, and he's just killing it because he does everything I tell him to do, and it works.
Yeah. And so your wife, even though she's just licensed, but she's been working with you for years, right?
Yeah, in some capacity.
Yeah.
She used to be the marketing and brand manager for Whistler Blackcomb, the big, the ski resort here. So that's her background. She has a marketing degree.
Okay, gotcha. So take us back into first of all, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Northern Ontario, actually. So when people think of Ontario, they usually think of Toronto, but it's really the far western end of Ontario, which is like literally a 16-hour drive away from Toronto, more closer to Manitoba. And then I went to University of Manitoba in Winnipeg. Okay.
And what did you do before you got into real estate? What did you do after college?
Well, I was a ski instructor. So I came out here, I actually taught skiing in Ontario, then taught skiing in Banff. And I decided that Banff was way too cold. So moved out to the West Coast where it's a little bit more temperate. So I taught skiing here for a number of years and then went up through the ranks in the ski school here, managing private lessons for the mountain. And in the summers, I was actually teaching skiing in New Zealand. And then also doing some fly fishing guiding and mountain bike guiding and stuff here too. Just trying to piece things together in the summers because ski instructing is, 6 months at most, unless you do the going down to the Southern Hemisphere thing and teach in Chile or go down to New Zealand or Australia, which I did for 1 year. And then that was about it.
Yeah, it's too much travel, huh?
Yeah.
So what brought you into real estate? Tell us about that.
Well, got married and decided I needed a real job and needed to actually make some money because there's not a lot of money in ski teaching. Yeah. Lots of fun, but not a lot of cash.
And were you living in Whistler at the time?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because when I first I was actually thinking of getting my license here, and I talked to a couple of broker owners, and they were all like, "No, you're too young." And I was 21, and to me now that's like no big deal.
Yeah,
get started in the business, no problem. But I actually ended up waiting a year or two, and then I finally got my license when I was, I guess I was 26 is when I got my license. Yeah.
Well, and I will say we've got some younger agents here, and you know, the 23 to 25, it's tough in a market where the values are higher, you know,
Yeah.
because it's hard for people to take you serious because
Yeah.
you know, if you look so young, they're going to think of a lack of an experience, right?
Well, like Alex on my team, I think he's probably 22. He looks like a kid.
Yeah.
You know, but he dresses super smart. He's super switched on, just following up with people. You know, and it's just like when I started, if I didn't have the answers, I would just say, hey, I'll get that, you know, I'll figure that out for you, and
Right.
we'll find out. And, you know, that's how every realtor is, because we usually don't know all the answers. So it works for him. But I definitely cherry pick who I give to him and who I keep. And you know how that is.
Yeah. I'm matching with the right personalities.
Yeah. I mean, our average home price here in terms of homes is like 3.1 million.
Wow.
Yeah, and our average condo price is 1.2. So, you know, we're talking Canadian dollars, which is, you know, less, but still,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a really interesting market. You got to be pretty switched on to deal with the kind of people we deal with.
Yeah. And so what company did you start with? Is it a local company or a franchise or what?
Yeah, I actually just started with Remax. Really enjoyed working with Remax, did all the Remax conferences in the beginning and everything. And then our broker owner with Remax, he sold to a competitor here. He sold to Windermere Real Estate, which is out of Seattle.
Yeah.
And I just didn't click with the owner of the Windermere franchise. And
Yeah.
it's still a Remax. They've ditched Windermere and they're full Remax, but we never really saw eye to eye, so I moved on.
Okay. And so is that when you moved to Whistler Real Estate Company?
Yeah, I moved over to the Whistler Real Estate Company, which was here. It's they're sort of a boutique company here, but they're also the oldest, the biggest. They're kind of like the gorilla in town, which suited me just fine. I had a short stint with a couple of other smaller franchises here, but it never really worked out. It always made sense to kind of be with the big company here.
Gotcha. And so when did you start your team?
I
Start
think,
your team. You start a team. You branded yourself.
yeah. I saw the value in personal branding years and years ago. But I started in the business in 98, 99, and then hit up the conferences and tried to learn how to grow my business when I was 2000, 2002, and went to a couple of good conferences. Howard Brinton was the Star Power stuff. I went to a lot of those conferences and got to know Howard quite a bit. He unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but and then kind of graduated over to a lot of the Tom Ferry stuff, and I did personal coaching with Tom Ferry actually at one point. So that was fantastic. But actually, the nucleus of starting a team kind of happened for me around 2006 to 2008, and we had the route we went was non-VA, because at that point VA stuff wasn't even a thing. So we had all in-house assistants. So I had 2 full-time in-house assistants, and then we had 4 buyer's agents. And then the market fell off a cliff for us here in 08, 09, like it did in the States. It was like a year late here. We were still going okay when you guys were kind of crashing, but the team sort of imploded on me at that point. I knew I needed to trim things down, but I didn't pull the trigger fast enough.
Yeah.
So we had to just basically let everybody go. I still needed a ton of help because I was, we were doing 100 deals a year at that point.
Even it crashed.
We it went off the cliff for us to a point where we were kind of doing like 30 to 50 ends, and it was like, I can't support all this staff at that type of volume.
Yeah.
So, but I still needed help, right? So I ended up, and this is a really funny story. A lot of people might know Laura Monroe from India.
Yeah, I know Laura very well.
She was my first, she was my first VA. So she was a VA for me in 09, and I can't even remember how we connected. I think it was through Active Rain, actually.
Active
Yeah,
brain. Heard that
yeah, I
name.
know. So it was through that. And so she was doing VA stuff from her home in California. And so she helped me out for only like 2, 3 months. But when she was ready to move out of doing VA stuff, she's like, listen, I've got a friend in Calgary who's a kick-ass VA. Let me introduce you. So I ended up working with Jennifer Wilson in Calgary. And then we just hit it off. And she's been my listing and transaction manager now for, like I said, like 12 years probably.
What a trip. Yeah, I met Laura at a real estate webmasters conference about 3 years ago. She was working with them. It was
Yeah,
in
yeah, she moved. Yeah.
yeah, and then now she's at Inman, and I think I interviewed her last year. If you want to hear the Laura Lynn
Oh, okay,
podcast, it's on
cool.
this one. Yeah, and so is that when you started the team, like 2008, 2009?
Yeah, well, I started, like I said, I started the team 06, 08
Okay,
in
gotcha,
that sort of
gotcha.
in-house fashion.
Yeah,
We had a real struggle too with one of our buyer agents during that sort of transition time when the market was kind of crashing a little bit on us. One of our buyer agents, he actually he didn't show up for work for 2 days in a row, and I'm like, he's a young guy too. He's 21. He was killing it. His GCI that year was, I think, $120,000, which is pretty big for
yeah,
a brand new agent in the business on a team. And so we couldn't figure out where he was. And so I ended up getting the key to his condo, and I went over to check and check on him, and he had passed away in his sleep.
oh no, what
Yeah,
happened?
he died in bed. And so I found him, and what happened was he had told me actually months prior that his family had like a real bad congenital heart problem, and that he thought he was gonna die young because everyone in his family
Wow.
dies young, and he died in his sleep. So it was crazy. It was really rough on the team, and we were kind of imploding a little at that point too, and contracting. So I that's kind of what started the whole, okay, let's blow this up.
Yeah.
Let's go to VAs. Let's trim things back till the market gets better, and then we'll build up after that, which is kind of where we are now.
Yeah. So, gosh, I'm trying to think when we met. So, like a lot of the people that have been on this podcast, it's been through Curator, which
Yeah,
I
totally.
believe I was with them for 5 years. I think it was like 2014, maybe. I don't know. What's the
Yeah.
the Orlando conference?
Yeah, so I think the Orlando conference with Curator was the very first conference, and it had to be 2015 or 2016. I'm going to say 2015.
Okay, yeah, I think so.
That's where we met.
Yeah, right. And just for the sake of context, Dean and myself and Anthony Malfontaine and Lee Adkins and Charles and then Nat have
Yeah.
been on a mastermind every 2 years. I mean, every 2 weeks. We don't all show up. In fact, rarely do we all show up, but for about 5 years?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
So we've developed a strong friendship. So tell us about vacation rental. So when you started, were you always doing the vacation rental market?
Well, that's kind of what a lot of people will purchase here for. They want to have
Say vacation rental, a second home. That's what I mean.
yeah, second home market. So people will buy here, and the type of people we deal with are everywhere from this is their first, second home to I've got people who own all around the world. Clients of mine have like 5 houses in different places.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what the market here is because we're a ski resort. We're only an hour and a half away from Vancouver, which is our main market.
Yeah.
And then secondarily, we have like 15 to 20% of the people that own here are actually from Seattle as well.
Okay.
So I deal with a lot of people out of Seattle. I've got a lot of clients with Microsoft. And then just going down the West Coast as well, we've got, tech guys from San Diego, San Francisco. So we've got a lot of those clients as well, but it's not the international market here. You got a lot of UK, Australian purchasers, but it's around the makeup is like 70% Vancouver, 15% Seattle, and then another 15% around the world.
Gotcha. And so how is it different marketing and, well, I guess marketing, even getting listings, getting the listing and then marketing a listing for a second home?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. For us, trying to get listings is a tough one. It's more, I'm doing well with it now because I've been in the business for 22 years.
Yeah.
So I'm a lot of repeat and referral and past clients, and that's kind of how it works for everybody when you've been in the business that long. But we've gotten a kind of away from marketing our sales success over, when you get a listing or, when you sell something, you always want to put a flyer out to, the neighborhood or something like that. And it's hard for us to do that here because of two things. The people that you're trying to mail to don't live here. So you got to get their address where they live, which is like Hong Kong or it's somewhere in Seattle.
Well, and that's hard for you guys in Canada because you have privacy laws, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the second point, is that it's really hard to kind of get those addresses.
Yeah.
So what we've been doing lately is we've been just kind of relying on our past success and just, getting listings through word of mouth and past clients. And now we kind of have to up our game, do what we used to do with, I think, going back into direct mail a bit more, which, and Nat Ferguson was saying he's doing really well with it down in Seal Beach, which is to some extent a similar market, being second homes. But I think that there's a real place for direct mail again. And, if you watch Tom Ferry's stuff or you've been to the recent summit, I mean, he's all about direct mail and what's old is new again, right?
Yeah.
So we're working with bringing on another VA in the Philippines that can help us to sort of generate all those mailing addresses. And we're going to be doing that in a legal way, which is getting title searches. We have to actually pay for a title search for each property we want to send mail to.
Yeah.
And a title search for each property is like $10-12.
Wow.
But it's going to be worth it for us. I mean, if we spend that for a 100-unit building, it's how it is. We're just going to have to do it.
You have been an early adopter in video for a long time. And I know you put out a couple of videos on the latest camera technologies, and you've been doing video walkthroughs. In fact, we actually had the same video coach, Owen Video, who is a good friend of mine. He did a podcast as well. I think he's one of my favorite people in the world. And so how have you used that in your marketing?
Yeah, it's so my YouTube channel for real estate has been going since 2008. So very early adopter. And I think I've got like 350 videos on there right now, which is crazy. I look back at this early stuff I did and it was like,
oh, me too.
It was such garbage, but I've learned a ton, right? It's so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been working with Owen Hemsath, Owen Video. I've re-upped with him and we're doing another 3 months right now. So, but it's been a big help, mainly because it's a very complex market here to understand. There's a lot of different limitations on owner use and different sort of zoning stuff you need to know. So we do a lot of talking head explaining videos, and I found that they tend to be quite boring. So I like to do a lot of sort of B-roll just to explain things, a lot of sort of graphical overlays and stuff. So we've been playing around with that a lot over the past couple of years, and it's spiced things up enough to the point where you get longer watch time and you actually get people that understand what you're talking about.
Right.
So that's been really helpful. We're actually just working right now, and this is something we've been trying to do for years, but I think I have the bandwidth now to actually make it happen. And we're looking at putting together a second channel, which really is sort of a lot of activities in town, restaurant reviews, meeting business owners, all that stuff. And we did a few of them about 3 or 4 years ago, and it kind of petered out.
Yeah.
But now I think I really need to have more of the know, like, and trust happening.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of that through just my real estate videos because I'm pretty personable, especially in my walkthrough videos and listings. But those can be boring. Like we don't get a lot of watch time on that stuff.
Yeah.
But if we can do something that's completely separate on a different channel, and I'll still introduce myself as, real estate agent, of course.
Sure.
And then also on the backside of COVID here, just trying to help local businesses get a bit more awareness.
Yeah.
I think it's a win-win.
Yeah, Jay Marks has been doing real well with that.
Yeah, he's been killing that for a couple of years now. And I actually just listened to a bunch of podcasts of Kyle Whistles in San Diego. And I'm like, it's so smart. And I've watched a lot of his videos. And I'm like, I'm doing that. We're just doing it. So I hired a videographer today. He does all of our company's main corporate stuff. And he's expensive, but he's agreed to kind of drop his fees a bit for me. And then he's just going to actually shoot the video, and we're just going to upload it all to Dropbox, and then we're going to have Video Husky do the editing, so it makes it more affordable.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And are you still doing the coffee with Dean?
Yeah, Friday morning coffee is sort of my big. I mean, it's such a little thing, but it's been huge for me ever since I started in the business in like 2000. We've been doing every single Friday is a little newsletter that goes out. It's an email list. We're now I think we're at 12,000 email addresses on it.
Wow.
And it's just a quick single paragraph of what I've been up to, something interesting. I did this cool bike ride or something. And then I'll drop a video in, a recent explainer video or walkthrough or something. And then the more important point, because I think people skip that stuff and get right to the meat at the bottom, which is new listings, price reductions, and solds in the past week in our 2 different markets, 2 towns near here. And if I never send it out, if I miss a week, I get emails like immediately. Where's Friday morning coffee?
Yeah, that's great. I built my entire business. I started my business, Spyglass Realty, on a newsletter. So I had, we had been a hot market in 2006, 7, and most of the buyers that we worked with were buying with 5% down with and the 5% was taken off a HELOC loan off their house in California, right? Barely could afford stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of start over. So what I did is I would find properties, foreclosures, and get permission to advertise them, if you will. And I did a top 10 foreclosure list. And I would put that out every single week. It was a lot of work because I had to look at the property, the after repair value, and potential rent. And I forget how I could distribute it. I was posting some stuff. Oh, I'd post the foreclosures on Craigslist, and that's how I built my database. Yeah. And ever since then, so now I'm not in production, but I would do a newsletter at least once a quarter, right, which would be the economic forecast. And it would be the highest ranking thing, most opens, most responses it ever did. And it's actually one of the things that I teach my agents is like, guys, if you don't write, I like to write, but if you don't like to write, do a video, right? Do a video of what's going on in the market. People want to hear about that stuff. And I just think one of the key things to be successful is a newsletter. And if you can put video in with that, it makes it 10 times better.
Yeah. And the key too is that, everyone's afraid of sending too much email. And I agree that there can be too much. I mean, I get emails from Sean Reddy like 3 times a week. And I'm like, I got to unsubscribe from you, Sean. I'm sorry.
Right.
But it's, once a week, it seems like way too much. And it's just not. If there's value, it's not.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what mistakes, there's some key mistakes you think you made over the past that you've learned from, or that anyone else can learn from?
It's one of the tough things in this business is just keeping your expenses low. And we've had a couple of really good years. I think we all have in the business, and I'm starting to see the writing on the wall with, things contracting. It's harder to get listings with like 0 inventory. Luckily I represent a couple of builders who are doing a bunch of building right now. So I've got new homes coming on the market, which is great, but we just have to be really careful with expenses. And So I'm really excited right now about ramping up sort of our assistance, but doing more virtually. And we actually just, Lee and I just had a phone call yesterday with Sphere Rocket out of the Philippines. Now, Kyle Whistler uses Sphere Rocket
Yeah.
to, to hire VAs. And we've been looking at philippinejobs.ph and looking at doing some of that stuff on our own. But these guys, for $4,000 as an initiation fee, and
Yeah.
they don't take any cut off of the the VAs after that.
Oh, wow. So they
It's gonna
hire
be,
like headhunters.
yeah, it's gonna be, and they do all the training. There's weekly trainings. They're all pretty much real estate related VAs.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to jump in on that. So we're going to bring one on and see if we can maybe grow it to 2. But if I were to bring that person in house, I mean, I've got a spot here waiting with a MacBook.
Yeah.
It's $20 an hour easily,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
And then I have to manage someone here, and I'm just not good at direct management.
Yeah. Me neither. We actually have 4 or 5, maybe 6 VAs, and I don't manage any of them. Kelly manages some, Sonny manages the rest. So,
Yeah.
but that's because they're good at it and I'm not. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, our VA in Calgary, she's well worth what we pay her. She's not cheap, but I mean, she just
but right,
knows
she's
her
not
shit
your
so
typical
well.
VA. She's a remote worker, right?
Yeah, it's not quite the same thing.
No. Well, yeah. And so, what's next for Linnell Group? What anything on the horizon?
Yeah, just just really trying to focus on not only lead gen, because Wailopo's kind of got that figured out for us, but really staying on top of the lead flow. I think that we're kind of swimming in leads. I'm not sure that we really need to up our tier with Wailopo. We were thinking about it, but I'm not sure we do. I mean, we're sitting at 200 leads a month between me and one buyer agent, and I could probably bring another buyer agent on to handle that. And it's just, some of it's just falling through the cracks. I mean, we have hand raisers, and we've got people looking at listings 10 times over the past week, and we're just not touching them like we should. So I think the VA can help a lot with that.
Absolutely. That's been a focus of ours. Is actually we went from, like, I don't know, 600 or 700 leads a month to like really 400 or 500, but the leads are more quality. Like they're more qualified. We're not doing barely any forced registration except for sellers, and then also focusing on the lead follow-up, the flow, making sure things don't slip through the cracks. We've got an ISA that all she does really is look at the last action of a lead and make sure that the agent, she's not like an ISA frontline ISA, she's a back-end ISA.
Yeah.
And that's been really helpful for conversion.
Yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I mean, we were using lead whisperers as an ISA, and Scott Moe out of Vancouver kind of turned me on to them. I think you might have used them for a little while, lead whisperers.
Not lead whisperers. I use Agentology and Conversion Monster and something Squad. I've used them all.
Yeah.
The one we have is in-house now.
Yeah, so I think that we're going to go kind of that route. It's not necessarily making calls. A lot of our leads here, we don't get a lot of traction on phone calls. So yeah. I think we can get that Philippine VA to help us out a lot on sort of back-end ISA stuff, texting, just kind of nudging the agent like, hey, did you notice that so-and-so looked at 10 properties last night or whatever?
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, and we'll talk offline about that. But okay, so lastly, and this is really important, guys, if you're listening to this or watching this, you should definitely follow Dean. He puts some quality content out. So tell us, where can people find you online? YouTube, Instagram?
Yeah. We don't do a ton of Instagram. Need to do a bit more work on that, but it would be we're dean.linnell on Instagram, and then on YouTube, just look up Dean Linnell or Dean Linnell Whistler Real Estate.
Yep.
And then our upcoming YouTube channel is going to be Everything Whistler.
Gotcha. Awesome, Dean. Well, it's been a real pleasure, and I'll see you on our Friday every other week calls.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man.
All right, have a great day.